Hello, English learners. I'm Paul, your host for today. It's great to have you here. And with me today, I have a very special guest, an expert in all things English. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me. It's always exciting to chat about learning English.
You know, something we hear a lot from our listeners is that life just gets in the way. Work, family, errands. It's hard to find time to study. But what if I told you that you could boost your English skills using tiny pockets of time you already have? I bet you've got some ideas for that, right?
Absolutely. We're going to focus on 5 key words that can totally change your approach to learning English. And these words are all about making progress even when you feel busy, which is our first word of the day.
Busy. It's the classic excuse, isn't it? But it's also often true. So how can we work with busy instead of letting it stop us?
Well, busy just means having a lot to do. But think about it. You're probably already doing things where you could add a little English practice. Like imagine you're on the bus heading to work. Instead of scrolling through social media, you could be listening to an English podcast, like this one.
Ah, sneaky. You're turning dead time into learning time. I like it. Okay, so we're being clever about using the time we've got. What's the next word that can help us level up our English?
That would be opportunity. And this isn't about some big life-changing event. Opportunity is all around us, hidden in plain sight. It's those little moments where you can choose to use English.
Give us an example. What's a tiny opportunity that most people wouldn't even think of?
Let's say you're making your grocery list. Most people just jot it down in their native language. But what if you tried writing it in English? Suddenly you're practicing vocabulary for food and quantities. And who knows, you might even impress the cashier with your English skills.
I love that. It's almost like a little game you can play with yourself. How many everyday tasks can I turn into English practice?
Exactly. And the more you spot those little opportunities, the more natural English will start to feel.
Okay, I'm getting the feeling that this is all about building a new habit, right? Which brings us to word number 3.
You got it. Consistency. This is where so many people stumble. They think they need hours and hours to study. But consistency means doing something regularly, even if it's just for a short time. It's like going to the gym 15 minutes a day is better than 2 hours once a month, right?
Definitely. So we're not talking about massive study sessions. We're talking about building a little bit of English practice into our daily routine. Now, I'm guessing word number 4 is all about the tools that can help us write.
That's right. Resources are those things that can help you achieve your goals. We're talking about this podcast, of course, but also apps, websites, books, even English-speaking friends, anything that gives you a chance to use and improve your English.
Okay, so we've got the time, busy. We're spotting the chances, opportunity, we're doing it regularly, consistency, and we've got our tools, resources. But something tells me there's one more ingredient we need.
You're thinking of motivated, right?
Exactly. It's easy to start something new, but how do we stay excited about learning English when life gets crazy?
That's where motivation comes in. It's that energy, that drive that keeps us going even when things get tough. And, you know, sometimes motivation comes from big goals, like wanting to travel the world and speak to people in English. But sometimes it's the little things that keep us going.
What kind of little things?
Yeah.
I'm all about those small victories.
Think about it this way. Did you learn 5 new words this week? Awesome. Celebrate that win. Did you watch a whole TV show episode in English and understand most of it? That's huge. Give yourself a high five. Those little moments of success add up and fuel your motivation to keep going.
So we've got our 5 power words: busy, opportunity, consistency, resources, and motivated. But how do we take those words and turn them into real action?
That's what we're going to dive into next. Stay tuned because I've got some practical tips that even the busiest English learner can use. All right. Let's get practical. Remember how we talked about being busy? Well, instead of seeing that as a roadblock, let's turn it into an advantage.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. How do we do that?
It's all about those little pockets of time that you normally wouldn't even think of for studying. Think about your commute. A lot of people are stuck on a bus or train for at least a little while each day.
Yep, that's me, 30 minutes each way every day.
Perfect. Instead of zoning out or scrolling through social media, pop in your headphones and listen to an English podcast or audiobook.
Ooh, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
I find audiobooks really help me tune out the noise of the commute, and it's amazing how much I pick up without even realizing it.
You see, you're already a master of opportunity, turning a routine activity into a chance to learn. And speaking of opportunity, think about the things you do for fun. Hobbies are a fantastic way to sneak in English practice.
Okay, give me an example. Let's say my hobby is cooking. How do I bring English into that?
Easy. Start looking for recipes in English. There are tons of websites and even YouTube channels dedicated to cooking in English. You'll learn all kinds of vocabulary related to food, instructions, and measurements. Plus, you get to eat delicious food as a reward.
It's like a 2-for-1 deal. Improve your English and satisfy your taste buds. And it's not just cooking, right? This could work for any hobby.
Absolutely. Love movies. Watch them with English subtitles. Are you a gamer? Switch the language settings to English. It's about making English a natural part of the things you already enjoy doing. It doesn't feel like studying. It just feels like fun.
This is making me realize how many opportunities I'm missing out on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start watching my favorite TV shows with English subtitles from now on.
I bet you'll be surprised by how much you understand. And here's another tip that works wonders for a lot of people. Find a language partner.
Ooh, like a study buddy.
Exactly. Someone who's also learning English, or maybe a native speaker who wants to learn your language. You can chat, practice pronunciation, and keep each other motivated and accountable.
I love that. Because, let's be real, motivation can be a tricky thing. Some days I'm super pumped to study, and other days it feels like a chore. Any advice for those days when I'm just not feeling it?
Those days happen to everyone. First of all, don't beat yourself up about it. It's okay to take a break. But when you're ready to get back on track, remember your why.
My why.
Yeah, think about the reason you started learning English in the first place. Do you want to travel the world? Get a better job? Connect with people from different cultures? Write down your why and keep it somewhere you'll see it often. It's a powerful reminder of what you're working towards.
That's such a good idea. It's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day and forget about the big picture.
And don't underestimate the power of celebrating your progress, even the small stuff. Did you have a conversation in English and feel understood? That's a win. Did you finally nail that tricky grammar rule? Give yourself a high five.
I'm definitely a big believer in celebrating those little victories. It keeps things fun and reminds you how far you've come.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to our final part, I want to make sure you have all the tools you need. Remember, we talked about resources?
Yeah, the things that help us learn. We've got this podcast. But what are some other resources you recommend?
Well, there are tons of language learning apps out there like Duolingo and Babbel. They're great for learning vocabulary and grammar in bite-sized chunks. Plus, they often have fun games and challenges that keep you engaged.
Those are super popular. I've tried a few of them myself, and I like how they fit into those little opportunity moments throughout the day.
And don't forget about good old-fashioned books. There are textbooks for grammar workbooks for practice, and even graded readers that let you enjoy stories while learning new words.
Ah, yes. I love a good book. It's a classic way to improve vocabulary and get immersed in the language.
And finally, let's not forget about the power of real-life conversations. Find an English-speaking friend, join a language exchange group, or look for online communities where you can practice speaking.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about being busy, finding opportunities, staying consistent, using resources, and staying motivated. But before we wrap up, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
I would say the most important thing is to remember that learning a language is a journey, not a race. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have days when you don't feel like studying. Just keep coming back to it, keep trying, and most importantly, have fun along the way.
I love that. Learning should be enjoyable, not a chore.
Exactly. And sometimes the best way to stay motivated is to hear inspiring stories from other English learners. That's why in our final part, I want to share a couple of stories that show just how powerful these 5 words can be. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Daily English Podcast. We're wrapping up our chat about learning English even when you're super busy.
We've covered a lot of ground from being busy to finding opportunities, from consistency to resources, and of course the power of staying motivated. But sometimes the best inspiration comes from hearing how other people have made it work.
I love a good success story. It's so encouraging to hear about people who have overcome challenges and achieved their language goals. Do you have any stories like that you can share with us?
I do. I recently met a woman named Sarah who works full-time and has 2 young kids. She thought she'd never have time to learn English, but then she started using those little pockets of time we talked about. She'd listen to podcasts while doing dishes, practice vocabulary while waiting in line at the grocery store, and even read a page or 2 of an English book before bed.
Wow, she sounds like a master of opportunity.
Yeah.
She was determined to make it work even with a packed schedule.
Exactly. And you know what? All those little efforts added up. She's now able to have basic conversations in English. And she's even planning a trip to the US to practice her skills even more.
That's fantastic. It proves that even small steps taken consistently can lead to big results.
Absolutely. And here's another story that really highlights the importance of resources. I know a young man named David who's a huge fan of video games. He realized that most of the games he played were in English, but he wasn't really paying attention to the language. So he decided to change that. He started playing with English subtitles and even joined online gaming communities where he could chat with other English speakers.
So he turned his passion into a learning tool. I bet his vocabulary and listening skills skyrocketed.
They did. He's now much more confident in his English, and he's even made some great friends from all over the world through gaming.
Those stories are so inspiring. They show that anyone can learn English no matter how busy they are, as long as they have the right mindset and strategies.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you, using the resources available to you, and most importantly, believing in yourself.
This has been such an insightful episode. I feel energized and ready to take my English to the next level. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure. I hope our listeners feel empowered to embrace those 5 power words and make English a part of their lives.
And for all of you listening, remember, we believe in you. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep celebrating those wins no matter how small.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Daily English Podcast for more tips, tricks, and inspiring stories to help you on your English learning journey. We're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, keep practicing and keep learning.